You want agents to see what you got going on because you want to pay an agent if an agent fills that rental. It's worth it for you to pay 1 month out of your 12 months of rent you're going to get from that 1 year lease for an agent to fill the unit, because otherwise you could wait months and you could lose money. So anyway, so I get these listings up, but I already knew in the back of my head, once these listings go up, there's going to be a lot of incoming tenant traffic through Zillow, through rent.com, apartments.com. Lots of random people just like, hey, I want to see this rental. Hey, I want to see this rental.
Are you giving yourself too much credit as like, I can't keep up with the demand?
But I mean, literally, it just stacks up.
It opens the door.
Oh, it stacks up. Welcome to the podcast dedicated to real estate, insurance, and everything in between. Join us as we take you along our own brokerage building journeys with additional wisdom from our network of business experts. Welcome to Bricks and Risk. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Bricks and Risk. I'm Tim Garrity.
And I'm Sean Mooney. Today's topic, Tim, we're talking about practice.
Talking about practice?
Talking about practice.
You're not a Philly fan, that's going to run over, but anyway, keep going.
No, today's topic, we're going to be talking about working in the business and working on the business.
Ooh, I love this one.
You can tee it up. Why don't you get us defined in terms of like what that is and how it relates to our businesses?
Okay. Well, the easiest way to get this one started, in my opinion, is to really talk about working in the business, because that's how everyone starts. So again, you started your own insurance brokerage. I started my own real estate brokerage. The reason we did that is because you got good at selling insurance and building a book of business yourself through another company. I did the same thing. We've both worked for other people, and we both had our captive audiences. And then we also had enough confidence at one point to say, hey, I think I want to start my own business, which to most people is insane. But so working in the business is really just as it sounds. All you're doing is you're selling, you're marketing, you're building it, but you are delivering the customer service. You are delivering the end product, whatever that is. You're following up. You need to get that review personally. You're doing every event coordination. You're doing every administrative task. I mean, you're basically just like, you're almost you're almost in prison with your business.
I was going to say the 5-tool baseball player, like they do it all.
Right.
And but
that's a good one.
Go prison.
So again, working in the business is how you have to get started.
Yeah.
But eventually, if you want that business to grow, if you want it to scale, you have to shift your mindset to working on the business. And then working on the business, to me, and you can tell me if you agree, disagree. I mean, I know we always have our little intricate things that we go over, which is what makes this podcast awesome. Working on the business means, okay, I'm not doing everything. Like a good first step, and this is what happened to me at Copper Hill. I need administrative help. I want that administrative help because I'm working too much in the business. I need someone else to be working in the business, doing, let's call it like the things that a lot of people could do, so that I can continue to go out and build relationships. I can do the high level marketing, the high level networking, the high level customer service, the high level sales, because that's where the income starts to come from. And I want to let this person work in the business, but more administratively. I want them to handle some of the, I don't want to call them menial, but it's almost like some of the smaller tasks, some of the admin, some of the office supplies, some of the transactional work, some of the client outreach, like some of these touch points that a lot of people could do.
I think I've heard it put a different way is like, you shouldn't be doing $10 an hour work.
Ooh, that's a good way to look at it.
You really have to, I think a good way to kind of like get this defined in a different kind of way is if you're doing, let's just say, data entry.
Yep.
You're losing money, right?
Right.
Because that data entry should be someone who's not qualified to do what I should be doing. That should be done by that person.
What are you qualified to do?
Tim.
Not much. Not much.
Yeah.
Just kidding, folks. Keep going.
So I think that that's kind of a good way to look at it. Like, what, like, where do you draw the line? What should I be doing? What should I not be doing?
Yeah, it's hard.
And can someone else less qualified than me handle that?
Yeah.
Then that's what they should be doing. And it is hard because you've always done it, right? You know, we're hands-on, starting from scratch and building it and doing it. And again, we talk about wanting it done right and wanting it the way that we've done it. So kind of handing it off to that other person isn't always the easiest.
Yep.
But again, how do you grow? You have to enable yourself to give that stuff to someone else.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. I think that's a really good perspective. I love how we always have we always
The
are
same but different.
the same but a little different, which is awesome. That's why there's two of us here. That's why we're having fun. That's why we're helping educate people out there as well. Because again, people have educated us. Part of the reason why we did this, as we talked about before. One thing I had mentioned before, and this goes back when we were talking about, when is the right time to hire administrative help. My own personal feeling was I felt like I was doing double work, which I know you agreed with. And the reason it felt that way, so let's give a real clear-cut example from myself. When I started Copper Hill with Andrew Janos and Ryan Garrity, we started the company together. All three of us started with the fact that we're going to go out and sell, but we're going to sell under this brand. So if we go out and sell under this brand, not only are we still doing sales like we were before, but we're building a brand. That was how we looked at it. So again, you're going out and you're doing everything.
Yeah.
I mean, every single thing you can think of, you're doing. You've done all this. Then when you get to a point where you're like, okay, it's time to bring in our first admin. It's time to bring in our first assistant. Someone, whether it's virtual or in person, it doesn't matter. You're bringing in help. When you bring in the help, what do you have to do? You have to have, either a handbook, some SOPs, some videos of you as you've talked about before. Hey, I'm going to do some instructional Loom videos that show me moving around. This is where you click. I'm narrating. So you have to put in all that time. That costs money to do that. It takes time to put it together. And then even when you put it out there to that person, what do you have to do? You have to check their work. So you put in all that time, let them do it. Then you have to. So it's almost like you're doing triple work in the very beginning. You're still checking their work for a while until you get to a point of trust where you're like, this person is running with it and they're doing a great job. Even if it's, again, the 80% is good enough. Even if they're only doing 80%, that's fantastic.
Yep.
So I'm going to let them run with it. So speak to that a little bit as far as from your perspective, because I know you kind of started out with VAs.
Yeah. So we
virtual assistants, everyone.
Just because in our industry, inside insurance, there's so much stuff that can be done where you don't need to be licensed. A lot of it is filing, a lot of it is documenting, a lot of it is follow-ups and billings and that sort of stuff. So how can you fill that role of a person that it's really work that can be done. I want to say by anyone.
Yeah. I think you put it like it could be done by a third grader. That's how you put it before.
Did I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was correct.
Yeah. But, so we did. We had a VA because, all right, we train them up. They're able to get on the phone, file these paperworks, follow up on the billings. They can make calls out to vendors and carriers and clients if need be, which we had them do. And it just, by doing that, by bringing that virtual assistant in, it allowed, it freed me up, right? So now I was doing half of the service that I was doing before.
Yeah.
So all of that extra time allowed me to do what? More time for sales.
Business building.
Right?
Yep.
And so working in the business of doing all the data, doing all the sales, doing all the follow-ups, by pushing that off to someone else allows me more time then to work on the business.
So your insurance brokerage today, Mooney Insurance Brokers, you have 3 people within your business?
Yep.
All right, so define those roles. So now that we've like defined in the business versus on the business, so everyone's got our own opinion on what that means. Talk about the roles of the three people in your brokerage.
So it's me, as agent broker,
As the talented leader.
right? Uh, and then I have an office manager who really does all of the policy maintenance, all of the service, all of the phones, kind of like everything. What we call is just the service aspect.
Dotting I's and crossing T's.
Yep. And then we have a sales agent who's really just only sales, sales, sales.
That's all he does.
Yeah.
Any administrative or marketing too, or it's really just, no, I
No.
want you to sell just like I'm selling, but maybe he's not focusing on the big ticket sales.
Yeah. So what my goal is to have him really humming, and he's been with me for a year, so he's starting to kind of like really grasp all of our processes, all of our carriers, because we work with probably like 50 different companies.
Mm-hmm.
So just getting your arms around that can be difficult from time to time. And so he's getting there. And what I'd like to do shortly is have him do all of the, residential, personal insurance.
Okay. So
Yep.
you're getting granular. You're very specific
Yep.
to be like, this is what I want you to get really good at.
Yep.
Because again, you got to do different things. Like you can write business insurance
Yep.
at your company. You've done it for us. You're more looking at how to go out and meet more clients who you've defined before. It's like, hey, maybe they got a primary in and around Philadelphia. Maybe they got a house at the shore or up in the Poconos. Maybe they own a business. They have 2 nice cars. Maybe they have some artwork or some jewelry or something like that. Like that's who you want.
Yep.
Like that's who you're targeting.
Yep.
So yeah, so talk about that a little bit more.
So if he's primarily, the personal insurance, and let's just say there comes a day where it's like, I don't even think about it. Like he's got it down cold.
Yep.
Then I'm then moving into half of my time being spent doing commercial insurance, because that now frees me up. If I'm not doing the service and I'm not doing the personal insurance, now it frees me up to do only commercial business insurance and more time to work on the business.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic.
So that's kind of the direction we're going. And my goal for this year in the immediate, like next couple months, is to now add in another person that is only basically the in between the office manager and the salesperson, because we're at a point now where there's just that service load is just too much for one person.
Okay.
So that person would then be tasked with helping the sales agent with new sales. So like all the signatures on applications and all of that.
So it's almost like your current agent takes a step up. So he becomes a little bit more on your level, but specific to what he's doing.
Yeah.
And then you're bringing in another, let's call it a junior agent.
Yep.
To kind of fill in the gap between you and your current agent.
Yep.
And then that way it's like, he's got this and he's doing a fantastic job. So I have trust. I know it's going to go well. And then let's bring in someone else and let's let them kind of start where he started.
Yeah.
So that you can scale and increase.
Yep.
That's really cool, man.
So it gives them support. And then, who knows if that person really learns it, likes it, and can kind of grow into a different position, more on the sales side, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're just like, all right, well, we got sales coming in, so we can just task you with like 100% service.
Hey everyone, this is Tim, your favorite Bricks and Risk co-host. But don't tell Sean. I hope you're enjoying this episode, and I'll get right back to it in a moment. Our audience grows through word of mouth, so if you would please take a moment of your time and give us a review on the platform you're on, that would be fantastic. Please also help spread the B&R word by sharing your favorite episode with a friend. We greatly appreciate your time and trust. Now, back to the show. That's awesome. Like here's a good example from my business. So let's just call it 4 different types of deals. You can do a tenant deal, a landlord deal, a buyer deal, or a seller deal. People say investing, but again, an investor is either a landlord, a
Yeah.
buyer, or a seller. So let's just call it tenant, landlord, buyer, seller. Those are the 4 things you can do. In the beginning, you do everything, just like you did, just like I did. Um, what happens? The first thing to really kind of leave your plate in real estate, in my opinion, my experience, and at my brokerage, is really the tenant business. Tenant business is probably the easiest to get. Someone says, "Hey, I want to go rent something." You're like, "Awesome. Let me show you what's on the market. Let me take you through. If you like it, I'll show you how to apply for the application. I'll make sure the lease reads well. Make sure you're prepared with your move. You have everything you need. You got your tenant insurance, and you're off."
Yep.
So that's the lead or the client that most people want to give up as they get good. So I did this. Here's a great example. So recently, one of my better business contacts, he just switched companies. He works for, he was in a property management position, but for like big property management
Yeah.
companies,
Yep.
500 units, thousands of units. That's what he's done.
Yep.
And they got a couple buildings in my old neighborhood. And he called me up and said, "Hey, here are 3 buildings. We have probably like 20 vacant units. I need some help. How can you help me?" So I said, "Let me do this. Let me take a couple listings in each of these 3 buildings. We'll photograph them. We'll do a video tour. We'll put them on the MLS, the multiple listing service, because they aren't there now. They're doing all private marketing. They're just hoping
Yeah.
someone sees the sign, someone finds the website, which again, you can find tenants, but you're not finding everyone."
Or not targeting towards
Exactly.
the right
Like
people.
you want agents to see what you got going on
Yeah.
because you want to pay an agent. If an agent fills that rental, it's worth it for you to pay 1 month out of your 12 months of rent you're going to get from that 1-year lease for an agent to fill the unit. Because otherwise you could wait months and you could lose money. So anyway, so I get these listings up. But I already knew in the back of my head, once these listings go up, there's going to be a lot of incoming tenant traffic through Zillow, through rent.com, apartments.com. Lots of random people just like, "Hey, I want to see this rental. Hey, I want to see this rental."
Are you giving yourself too much credit as like, I can't keep up with the demand?
But I mean, literally, it just
It just
stacks up.
opens the door.
Oh, it stacks up.
Yeah.
So again, you're just going to be answering emails. So before I even took these listings, I got one of our teams on board, one of our real estate teams, and said, "Here's what I'm going to do. Every single lead that comes through, I'm just going to shuffle it to you. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle." And they got 4 people on their team. So they divide and conquer. Basically, what happens when the lead comes in, they're the ones who call or text or email.
Yeah.
They screen, they figure out what they want. If they really want to look at this building, they're going to take them through. And if they don't like that building, guess what? They're going to show them other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to meet tenant clients, but you have to cultivate. There's lots of steps. There's lots of time involved. And I know I don't have that time at this stage in my career. So
Yeah.
before I even considered these listings, I lined up
Yeah,
my
to get the-
process
Yeah.
to say, here are the units. Here's when this is going live. Can I rely on you and your team? And the answer was yes. Now, there was a chance they would say, "No, we're too busy," or "No, we're not interested in doing that
Yeah.
right now." So I didn't know that going in. Again, I have lots of agents I can talk to, but I knew that this was a good fit for them. So that's a good example, kind of relating to what you were doing. You're like, "Hey, I know this guy's going to run with the residential stuff, and I know he's going to get overwhelmed."
So does it come a point like with a rental, like would you, okay, so the first question is, would you have taken that if it was like one apartment? Like, are you taking that on if that guy calls and says, "Hey, I've got an empty unit here"? Is that something you would take on, or I
Yeah.
can take it on and pass it over here? Like, how would you have handled that differently?
That's a really good question. I would say if it was one, I would usually even pass that off
Yeah.
to someone else. You take the landlord listing, okay? You market it, you meet lots of tenant clients. Maybe you can find the tenant as well. If not, another agent's going to bring a tenant client in. You're going to close the deal, and the owner's going to be happy. Plus, you get a sign on the street, you get social media advertising, you can use it in a newsletter. Once it closes, you let people know you just filled another great rental. Maybe it's in your neighborhood. Maybe it's just in a market that you're trying to work more within. So no matter which way you look at it, you're going to get paid when you work with a rental, and it's going to lead to more business and more credibility. So to your question, yes, I'm even at a point where if it was one, maybe even 2 from the same client, I'd probably see if someone wants those. Again, you got to almost take it a level up. Like we have lots of different agents at our brokerage. We have some people that work part-time. We have some people that work full-time. We have some people that just refer business. They have a license because if they buy a house or an
Yeah.
investment, they want the advantage. Or they like looking at properties on the MLS. They just want to be in the game.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different hats to wear in real estate, which is interesting. So, all right. So we talked about working in the business, working on the business. We talked about the right people, right seat, and as well as like what you do at your brokerage, as well as I do with mine. I know you wanted to talk about a book or books that relates to this that
Yeah.
I don't think I've read because again, you're a better reader than I am. You're a better man. You're a better human being.
I am a better man.
So
I am a better
yeah,
human being.
that's the truth,
Dylan,
folks.
can we get a,
Yeah, can we put that as a
can we validate that?
can we put that out
Go on to
there?
Google.
Don't even watch the rest of the episode, folks, because that alone is all you need to know.
Well, no, when we were first talking about this, talking about different topics, the way I define it or what my frame of reference was always the E-Myth. And the E-Myth by Michael Gerber, he kind of walks through how business owners should be approaching their business. And it should be, in the end, it's almost the goal to have your business line up to be, if you're out of the business, this thing is running like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. It's like almost, I hate to use the example. If you get hit by a bus, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the book kind of walks you through, day one, almost like you're a business owner, you're doing this, you're doing that, and it kind of walks you through like, okay, this is what you need to. One of the first things is like, all right, take every single role within your business, right? And let's just say you make widgets, right? You have a person that takes the call, right, for a sales call, and then you have the person that uh, orders the parts together, and then you have the person that puts the parts together, and then you have the person that mails them, and then you have the invoice and the accounting. So like literally take every single
Take those 5 or
role.
6 people.
Yep. And for me, like I'm the CEO, I'm also the head of commercial, plus I'm the head of personal. You know what I mean? So like kind of categorize yourself by role and have everything laid out, mapped out. And then once it's mapped out, then it's like, all right, who should be in charge of this? Who should be in charge of that? And you take those roles and then you kind of like fit them in and divvy out the responsibilities.
Wow. Yeah, that's really good.
It's awesome.
I think I actually own this book. But again, back to the better man example we just made. I haven't read it yet. So.
Yeah. But and what part of what I was talking about before was I got a call from a buddy of mine who reached out and said, I talked to this kid and he's starting this business. It was Zorfus.
Okay.
And he said, would you mind talking to him? He's just out of college. He has this summer business down the shore in Wildwood. And would you mind talking to him to kind of like give him some framework of like what he needs to be doing now that he's moving from like a side summer gig into like a real deal business.
Gotcha.
So I said, yeah, sure. I'll talk to him. His name's Zach from Shoreline Waste. So if you're in Wildwood and you're looking for, or you have a need for,
is it waste removal?
His business model is he goes and gets your trash cans for you.
Oh.
Down the shore.
You mean like when you're not around and he's the one who puts them out and brings them back into your house? Interesting. What the hell does he charge for that?
I don't know. But it's like a booming business because so we have people that have rentals and you have a tenant that doesn't take the trash out, forgets.
Wow.
Now what do you do? Now you got
what
trash.
A good idea.
Yep. So we talked for like.
All right, Zach.
Yeah, we talked for like entrepreneurial, like.
Yeah, that's a really. For those of you who don't know, we're in the Philadelphia market. We're talking about the South Jersey Shore. We're not talking about Central or North because we know where that goes. But we're talking about the South Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
And the South Jersey Shore, I would say like 80-90% of the people who own property down there.
Weekly rentals.
Yeah, they only spend a couple weeks or a couple months down there a year. And then, especially if you're doing weekly rentals down there.
Yeah.
Even if you have a good property manager, like this can fall by the wayside.
Yep. So we talked for hours, just like, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And, I said, how are you collecting your leads and how are you communicating with your clients? And we went like soup to nuts on this.
That's cool.
And And so in the end, after we kind of got done everything, I did recommend 3 books to him.
Nice.
And the E-Myth was one, because I'm like, because one of the things he said was, I started this out and I had a couple homes, and now he's got like a couple hundred homes
Oh, wow.
where
Good
he's,
for him.
doing this maintenance on. So I kind of wanted to like plant the seed as like, okay, like as things get busier, you're going to need to like have people have roles and have responsibilities
Wow.
and, kind of,
Look at you mentoring.
yeah.
I love it.
It's like, having those conversations
Yeah.
is like the best.
Hey, part of the reason why we're doing this.
Yeah. And the other 2 were, so the one book was E-Myth, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is another favorite of mine.
And it's funny. I've never read it.
Yeah. And then Profit First.
I don't even know that one.
Profit First.
Who wrote
is,
that?
I couldn't catch the name. But it's the premise is he's an accountant.
I'll watch the movie, folks.
Yeah. Just go to Google. But he's an accountant, and his premise is like the first dollar generated January 1st is like your profit, and you put that profit here.
Wow.
And then the business runs like, after that.
Very cool.
So, a couple good books for anybody that's looking for business owners, entrepreneurial type of books to kind of dive into. But he was super appreciative. He was like, "Oh man." Even the one, I was like, all right, listen, you're going to need it like a CRM. You're going to need a way to manage it.
Yeah.
So I'm literally like on the computer. I'm like, here, go to
What was he doing? Like Excel, Google Sheets?
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's technically that's a CRM.
It is.
So.
And I was like, well.
It doesn't have a lot of capability.
I was like, well, take a look at this site. And I like steered him over to like this, like, I don't even know what it's for like service, like,
it's like a generic service CRM kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it ties in like texting. So like I was telling him, I'm like, how do you know someone went out, or how do you remind a client that you're going out, or, and I was like, well, you could like remind them you're going out, and you could have the guy that's doing the work, like take a picture and like validate that with the insurer, for the client, and boom, boom, boom. And he's like, hold on, slow down.
Whoa. I just broke my pencil.
Yeah. So he was like super appreciative, and he's like, oh, I gotta check these books out. Like just kind of like overload on information, but he was so into it, and I love it. I love conversations like that and talking them through it. And I hope it takes off. I hope he's like the king of like South Jersey.
That is great.
Trash can collection.
I love that example, and we're gonna close this one out on that one, folks. So thank you again for tuning in to Bricks and Risk. See you soon. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Bricks and Risk. Our goal is that you walk away with 1 or 2 valuable nuggets, and we greatly appreciate you sharing your time with us today. You can find all B&R episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcast content. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing.